Good morning, everybody. It's Dave, and here's Bo in the partial shade, which is where I would like to be. It is going to be about 95 here today. Yesterday was 100 with high humidity. Today is supposed to be the last of our heat wave, and we're going to drop about 5 to 10 degrees. Bo's ready, so we're going to head out to the garden this morning. As I mentioned, it is, and it has been, really hot for about a week now. And we've got a few things that are stressing, but not too bad. And luckily we haven't had any spikes. We can get up 105, 110 degrees is not uncommon, but we haven't had that at all this season, knock on wood. So the rose garden itself, I can kind of see a little bit that I spent some time going through and edging. So that spent actually the majority of the week. I couldn't believe how much grass had grown up along those bricks, and it was kind of nice to see those again, and also really nice to see that the bricks have stayed in relatively the good condition, considering like if I've mowed too close to them or anything like that. I did go ahead and start cutting back the bearded iris for a date stamp today. It is July 26th, 2024. So I'm about a week early from August, which is when you would normally cut back bearded iris. Bearded iris are really easy to prune. All you do is basically make a straight cut or even a slightly curved cut along the very top of the iris, about anywhere from let's say 4 to 5 inches in height from the ground, and then you just go through and clean off any dead fronds, any dead leaves, and that's really all you have to do. Hey everyone, it's Future Dave. I just thought I'd show you actually how to go ahead and prune the bearded iris. We've got this patch right here. I'm going to talk about this bit right here. I'm just going to go ahead and take that down with my head shears. Again, we're probably looking at the ground to here is about 4 inches. You can go as high as 5 or 6 inches if you want. I probably wouldn't go any lower. I'm just going to go through, clean that off, get the weeds out of the way, of course, and then any leaves that are needing to be pulled off, yellowed, things like that, they just come off like that. And again, you can kind of see the bulb here as well. And I talked about the directional way that this is going to grow. So if the bulb is facing this way, it's going to grow out like this. So this is definitely the end of the flower bed. So what I'm probably going to end up doing once I've got all these bearded iris pruned back is this particular one I'm going to take out and transplant somewhere else, or give away to a friend, or trade it for some other plants that I want. So that is as easy as it is for pruning bearded iris. There is nothing else to do in terms of spraying, cleaning, things like that. If you do have some white flies that have nested, you would just take a paper towel with water, wipe that off, clean it off. You do want to have at least one time of year where all the plants are free of pests and diseases, things like that, to regenerate. So make sure to go ahead and also pick up any debris that may be done after your pruning, because you don't want anything that has diseases or insects on it to jump right back onto the new growth of the next generation of plant. Now keep in mind, this is also the best time to go out and buy bearded iris to put in the ground. It's the best time to mail order it. It's the best time to transplant it. Again, August is that month that this takes place. So if you're going to do anything with bearded iris, now is a great time. It's going to be your best selection of bulbs. Depending on the variety, sometimes you're going to get, and what I normally suggest doing if you're buying them in person at a garden center, is buying the best, largest bulbs that you can get. if it's something like this here, that's a great size plant to get. The bulb itself looks like that. It's just actually not even a bulb, it's a rhizome. And forgive the shaking of the camera because it's Bo brushing up against my hand. And when you plant the rhizome, again, it's just about, you know, maybe an inch or so deep. And whichever way the bulb is growing, facing, it's going to grow. So this next section of bulbs growing off the bearded iris is going to grow back rather than forward. So keep that in mind as you plant the bearded iris. And that's really all there is to it. Bearded iris are very, very, very easy to grow. And it's one of the few bulbs that grows in all the different zones. So zone 1 through 10 is where it will grow. Besides that, we'll take a quick look around. I don't think there's anything too exciting in the yard. Got the beautiful Leonotis. The irises are just about done over here. But the good news is that over here, we've got some color on the Casablanca lily. So I expect this to be open in the next day or two as well. Down over here, we did have another patch of iris. This is one of the iris patches I did not get to last year. You always want to prune these back so they stay a little bit more in control, getting rid of the old foliage. That also gets rid of any pests and diseases that may get to the irises, which don't really have a lot of pests and diseases, mostly whitefly, maybe little aphids, but I can't think of anything else that they really get. And again, you know, you prune them back, cut off any dead leaves, and I would probably go back through and mulch that. You don't want the bulb exposed to the sun, so you're gonna bury that. And again, that's really all the care that they need. They don't need special fertilizers or anything like that, so they'll get a usual just a dose of fertilizer when I water or feed the entire garden. That is only going to be about couple times a year using an organic fertilizer, and I probably will give them a feeding pretty soon here because of all the water that's being applied over the summertime that leaches a lot of the nutrients away from the root system. The Tournament of Roses in back hasn't done as well this year as it has in past years. Over here, this is the beautiful almond bush. Now that's getting pretty high. It's about 6 foot in height. Nice fragrance when you get up to it, but not overpowering for the yard. I also wanted to mention, oh yes, that I started cutting down this plum tree. As you can see, the plum tree did not leaf out. I noticed there was some termite damage over the winter time. In fact, if I can get back in here, I'll show you what that looks like. When I cut back this branch that had died, that is termite damage. So when you see that and it's now down into the main trunk of the tree, that's probably going to be it for the tree. Unfortunately, plum trees are very prone to this. I had a purple leaf plum I took out about 15 years ago that had the same issues where they just started attacking one branch after another. So that's going to come out. I am going to put something else in once we get into the fall weather. So maybe about another at least 6 weeks, if not 8 weeks, I'll put something else in, and I'll probably also take the time to move the tree over. Not physically move the tree over, but just go ahead and actually replant the next tree a little bit over here to balance out the garden a little bit more, and especially the way that the curve is, I think it'll look a little bit better. Other than that, got a few more roses blooming, the crabapple in the back. Over here I did cut back some of the weeds to uncover the scaveola here that's purple. We've got the aloe, the white aloe that I planted. I'll get that free from weeds this week as well. Blue girl, throwing on a nice off bloom. Over here, got a wonderful planting of bow. There she is. And we've got some of those beautiful Sambac jasmine. This is Grand Duke is the variety. It is a beautiful jasmine that's native to the Philippines. Very fragrant when you get up to it. It's my favorite jasmine. But again, it's not anything that's going to overpower the yard. Some of the liriopes are doing really well. And others that I'm now covering have gotten sunburned. So that's what sunburned liriope looks like. It just bleaches out. Will it kill the plant? Not really. It's just really going to discolor the leaves, and it kind of lets you know it's not in the right area. Unfortunately, the roses on either side are newly transplanted, so they did not grow with as much vigor as I expected them to this year. And that one liriope gets a little bit too much sun for the sun pathway. It's not shaded by any trees that are on either side. So I am covering that up now, and that will eventually recover once we get into the fall, once the sun dips a little bit lower in the horizon. Over here, got the beautiful red dragon Japanese maple. And down here, you can kind of see some new growth on the Chamaecyparis. The dwarf Mugo pine, slow mound is the variety. Also over here is the bronze ajuga. Got some nectarines. Got some peaches. Over here, got the dogwood. I'm not even going to remember the name. I think it is Princess Cherokee, and that is a white one. Some of the blooms on the French vanilla here. The Corsican mint. This is also one of the cool things to do, is put some of the creeping ground covers in between rocks, in between areas of wood or bricks, things that have rotted away, and let kind of them be looking more natural in the yard. Corsican mint's one of my favorite, just because it was heavily planted in a nursery that I worked at when I was a teenager, and with all the watering we did, there was always Corsican mint growing, along with baby tears and such. But one of the smells that just kind of reminds me of summer and being young and working. Not else a whole lot to show you back here. Again, I'll probably be pruning more of those irises this week, get that all done. It's kind of like pruning roses. You just want to make sure that they're done by a certain time. We've got the plumbago coming in from the neighbors in bloom, which is nice. Over here, again, we've just had a week of 95 plus degree days. The Japanese maple here, Bloodgood, is holding up really well. Underneath it, everything is also looking good. This is the Wilma cypress. The gardenias, they're holding up okay. Again, this is probably a really bad area for planting, just because a gigantic liquid amber tree was taken out this past year. In fact, a year ago May, we did plant the Chiananthus tree here. It is putting on some new growth this year, which is great. It survived all of last year, which is great. No damage to the plant through this hot weather. So very happy that's doing well. I just want it to grow a little bit faster, but when you've got a tree base here that's been here for 25, 30 years, I'm sure it's not going to be the best soil or anything like that. So it was heavily amended. I keep adding the cedar mulch as well. So that will hopefully do really nice in the years to come. The fall Sorelia always surprises me. This is a shade plant growing in full sun. Didn't even burn in the hot weather we had this week. Pittosporum tenuifolium variegatum, and that's just been perfect as well. The Jatropha off to the left. I'm going to pass the Clivia really quickly, but you can see the burned tips of the leaves there, unfortunately. It's just was shaded by the liquid amber, and it is not shaded anymore. This Bloodgood burned just a little bit, but again, not bad at all for its exposure here. And once again, hopefully with this also being planted over here, that'll take off. That'll provide some more shade as well for some of these plants. This is the Magnolia Alexandra. Cruising around over here, the Shasta daisies, they're pretty much done. So what you'll do with these is you'll get right back in here and cut them off right at the base. The only reason I leave a lot of these plants up, as I shift over, so excuse my shadow, is that they do provide shade for the plants underneath them. So even though maybe I'd like to prune back the pomegranate a little bit just for shape, I am wary of that because all that protection is there for the plants underneath it, and all of a sudden when you cut them back, they're exposed to full sun on a hot day and they're not ready for that. Over here, the Shishigashira Japanese maple, Gemini tree rose, Dahlia, Dahlia is the rabbit's foot fern there. Do have some wonderful impatiens, again, kind of just morning sun for those. Some of the daylilies in bloom. You can see the bees on the echinacea. Plumeria in bloom there. And again, remember they're related to the cactus family, so they're usually really good in containers, half day to full day sun, depending on your location. You want to keep them protected from frost if you are in a frost sensitive zone, and I'm going to end up putting that out in the yard. Not exactly sure where, but it might be a nice contrast against those Japanese maples in the back. Beautiful conifer there. Plants in the back surviving since they're only getting a little bit of sun every day. The area that we planted last year looking great, and that brings us back over here to the Eugenia and the shade of the umbrella, because it is hot, it is humid, and I hope you are cool wherever you guys are and your garden's doing well. Only a few more weeks of summer, knock on wood, and we will get back to some really cool fall weather. Bo has rejoined me, so we're gonna say goodbye, adieu, and we will see you next week with another garden video.